Okay, now we come to the point where we are, for lack of a better term, balancing the scene. You can see that the model's complexion is totally at odds with the background scene. Shot at night with lots of neon blues in the background, and she's shot with a full flush of natural lights, or at least the same color temperature as natural daylight. And it simply doesn't add up in terms of her belonging in that scene. So we need to balance that, and there's a few tricks that we can use in order to do that. First off, we want to create, using layer, an adjustment layer for hue and saturation. Click OK, and you'll notice that it's created that layer. There's a mask. Nothing's being masked out at the moment, which means whatever adjustments I make here to the hue, it will be applied over the entire image. However, if I take this and fill that mask using the Edit menu, choose Fill, I'll just fill it in black. This means that whatever it is I do, it would now be masked out. So bear that in mind. I'm going to apply an adjustment. So I click on my adjustment, and I want to change the hue. And notice that it's changing both the subject and the background. In order to isolate, we need to click here, or we hold down the Option key and click here. And doing so limits any adjustments to the layer directly below that adjustment layer. So I'm just going to dial through this till we get a blue hue on the skin. There we go. You can see it there. And of course, I can bump the saturation a little bit if I wish. And she's looking rather alien in this picture, but I don't want it applied across the entire image in the subject. So what do? This is where the masking comes in. So if I select the mask and then I use the Edit and fill it in black, just choose black, click OK, all of the effect is removed because it's being masked out. Then what I can do is making sure the focus is on the mask itself. You can see from the corner highlights. I'm going to use the brush tool. I can choose a size for my brush. Again, left bracket to make it smaller, right bracket to make it larger, and I want a nice soft edge. So if I go up here, I can determine the degree of hardness. So that's a very, very soft brush, and that's a very hard brush with a very sharp edge to it. You can see the difference here in brushes with hard edges versus brushes with very soft edges. Now, the light would dissipate around her shoulders, so I want to use a very soft brush. And I want to paint in white. So make sure my foreground color is in white. And I'm painting not on the image, I'm painting on the mask that's being attributed or linked to the color change. And by painting in white, I'm actually allowing the color change, the hue shift to the blue, to poke through here. I'll just show you what I mean. So what I've done is I've created a hole through the mask which allows the color change to take effect. So what I want is just a slight halo just around the edge of her shoulders. Just as if it's acting upon her. We're getting some of that blue showing through from the environment. Now I'm exaggerating this quite a bit. Be better if it was a little more subtle. Again, I'm going to do the same with the hair. Allow for a bit of blue through there. Now, I've really overdone it here. I'm just doing it more or less to show to you how that can be done. again here. Perhaps a little bit in here. These earrings are silver, so they would probably reflect that blue. And there we have it. Now, if I need to paint back in, I would use black. If I've overstepped the bounds, I can come back and I can just sort of remove that color shift ever so slightly. And again, it's just to help balance her with the scene. Now, I don't have to have it applied at 100%. I can apply that effect right here, and we can reduce the level of its opacity. We can also change the blend mode. So we could use a multiply blend mode. We could use a lighten feature. That's giving her a kind of purple hue there. Screen, it's giving her a very bright halo. Overlay. And there's a number of different ones here that we could try until we found one that we felt was appropriate. We'll go with vivid light. That's a bit over the top. It's almost neon-like. Hard light. That's not too bad. Soft light. No. Possibly hard light. Screen, I think we tried. And you just got to give it a shot and see which one is going to work for you. Linear burn, no, that's too much. Color burn, no, that's too much as well. And darken, yeah, that makes it shift towards green. I don't know, I think the linear light, that was a bit intense, but we can reduce that intensity down, just like that. And I'm almost thinking normal. Back to normal. And we'll just play with the intensity level. Again, we can increase saturation and lower the opacity level. So you get to a place where you feel that it looks like it's believable that some of the color cast that's here would actually be picked up on the fringes of the subject. Next, we're going to apply a solid color. So we go down here and we're going to create a solid color swatch. We could have sampled from our blue. So we'll use our eyedropper tool and we can sample some of that color there. And that sets our foreground color. And now when we go down here and choose solid color, creates a solid color swatch. Again, we don't want that applied across the entire image. We need to indent that, so I hold down the Option key. Click on there, and you'll notice that it follows the silhouette of our subject, almost like a ghost image or silhouette. Now, I don't want it like this. I want it to interact with the color below, so I can try some different interactions like multiply, color burn. That's quite interesting. Linear burn and darker color. You'll find one that you feel actually works for you. That might actually work. Color dodge, perhaps color dodge. Linear dodge, no, that's too faded. Overlay, no, that's too contrasty. Soft light, hard light, no. Linear light, vivid light, hard mix, too much, too contrasty. It's all posterized. That's quite interesting, but it's a little overkill. I think I'm going to go with, maybe not screen, I'm going to go with multiply. And then I can reduce the opacity of that, of course, just to a level where I feel it looks appropriate. So if that looks like it's an evening scene and she's balanced with that scene, again, there may be better choices for what you're using here. Keep in mind, so there's darken at 45%. Well, I think I like darken better, actually. I'm going to go with that. And I feel that that gives an accurate kind of reflection. Let's switch it off. See what we had before and after. Maybe just reduce it a little bit more. And I think that gets us pretty close to where we want to go. One other thing, she's in very sharp focus, so is the background. That indicates a kind of infinite perspective. If you want to give the effect of a particular focal length where the background is slightly out of focus, we could select that background. I'll just make a copy of it. And on the copy, I'll just go to filter and use blur. And we could use a lens blur. I'm just going to use a Gaussian blur. And I'm just going to reduce the amount. Just creating a slight blur like that. Gives us what we would call depth of field. So that's it. We composited an image which had hair in it. We were able to isolate the hair using Photoshop's edge detection. Then we were able to bring the subject in against a different background and then balance her attributes against that context using a combination of a layer adjustment for hue and saturation and then applying a solid color that actually tied into the mask. So we indented it using the Option key. We indented it like that so that it was properly masked, and then we used a blend mode, in this case of darken at an opacity of 33%, to give her a color cast that seemed consistent with the background art. So there you have it, compositing and scene balancing.